Welcome to episode 26 of Decatur Dish. I am Atlanta News' first digital journalist, Maria Moreau, joined by the one and only Decatur Dish founder and publisher, Dan Wisenhunt. And I just want to congratulate myself because last episode I said this was episode 24 and it was episode 25. So to clear the air, it is now episode 26. We're back on the right number.
We forgive you.
It's okay. Dan, how are you doing? Welcome to this wonderful Tuesday that we're having.
Doing good. Grateful that someone's keeping up with these episode titles because, most of my life is just a blur anyway. So.
It's important. It's important to know.
Sure.
We're going to have to start doing seasons.
That's right.
So the episode numbers are going to get too high to remember.
Go binge to the Decatur Dish.
Yeah.
Get yourself a bottle of bourbon and
we'll drop
knock
some
yourself
links
out.
for you if you're watching this on YouTube or maybe you are on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV. Thank you for joining us. This is a weekly segment we like to do where we catch you up on these stories making headlines in and around DeKalb County. And we have a couple for you, so let's talk about them. First up, a crash at a notorious Decatur intersection. We'll let you know about the 3 people that were injured in this crash. And Aero Waste beginning sanitation and waste services in Avendale Estates. Racial disparities found in a DeKalb County school gifted program, several programs. And we will, of course, talk about the weekly spotlight on the community and take you through some of what you need to know as we are 1 week away from Georgia's primary election day, and it is going to be an important one for DeKalb County. But first up, let's talk about this crash in Decatur. Dan, this is on North Decatur Road and Superior Avenue, and it isn't the first time that we're hearing about problems on this intersection.
No, it's not. I feel like I should give the viewers a heads up. The cheering behind us, we're in a live newsroom, so there's stuff going on in the background. Nobody's cheering for anything that we're talking about today, but maybe the teacher of the year, but that'll be a little later. Yeah, North Decatur and Superior has been a big problem for a long time. We have a whole archive of crashes at that intersection, cars in people's yards, and Sunday there was another crash that sent 3 people to the hospital. Thankfully, they're all going to survive. But that intersection continues to be a problem, and one of the reasons it is because it kind of splits jurisdiction between DeKalb County and the city of Decatur. So there are multiple entities there that are responsible for addressing those safety concerns. They have talked about doing work there to make it a safer intersection. The problem is MARTA has been eyeing that whole area a long time to do what's called the Clifton Corridor. It was originally going to be rail. Now it's looking like it's going to be bus rapid transit. At the rate MARTA does things, I'm sure my grandchildren will love whatever they come up with. But because they don't have any of that finalized yet, the people who spend money are a little reluctant to drop millions of dollars to fix an intersection where the work might get pulled up at some point.
And I just want to point out, this has gotten so bad, the residents have dubbed this killer corners.
Yes.
Just to put that into perspective. And luckily, we haven't heard of this crash turning deadly, but 3 people were injured, and that is significant enough to talk about. And of course, for these residents, that's significant enough to raise concerns and offer solutions. Some of which was to make this a more pedestrian-friendly area. I know some residents were pushing for more signage around the intersection and other measures, and it's just we haven't seen the response that these residents have been pushing for.
Right, and that just kind of gets down to the factors that I mentioned. It's splitting jurisdictions. They're reluctant to spend money on it. I don't think it's that the people in charge don't care. They do care. I just don't think they feel that they're able to make a decision based on the circumstances that they've got in front of them. I will say, I know everybody knocks on the planters on West Howard Avenue in Decatur because they're a cheap solution, but maybe we need some planters here. Who knows? It's a low-budget solution. I know they slow down traffic because every time I drive into Decatur, my first thing is slowing down and going, what the hell is that? And then I remember it's the planters, and that's the cheap traffic solution that they came up with. So We'll continue to write about it. I hate to say this, there's probably going to continue to be more crashes at this intersection because it's just not a great intersection to drive through.
Yeah, I mean, well put. Let's take you to Avendale Estates. Some changes for residents. We're now seeing Aero Waste take over their services. And if you weren't familiar, this is actually something that the Decatur-ish put out ahead of the May 13th date where Aero Waste was going to begin offering solid waste and recycling collection. So residents now have a 95-gallon bin for garbage and a 33-gallon bin for recycling. Quite a good improvement for these residents who are going to be getting more consistent attention to their waste needs.
Depends on who you ask, I suppose. It's definitely going to be cheaper in the long run, both for the residents and the city. Avendale Estates used to have backdoor collection services, which meant the nice man from Public Works would come to your back door and get your trash can, and sometimes they would have to put up with angry residents or their angry dogs, or both. And it was a constant issue with the Public Works Department. On top of that, they started the Town Green, which is also being maintained by the Public Works Department, and it stretched the city's resources a little thin. Avendale Estates, when I started covering it, had about 3,000 people. I think it's a little closer to 5,000 now, but it's still a small city, and it's hard for a small city to provide something like waste collection services efficiently. And God knows they're not going to do it through DeKalb County because nobody wants to get involved with that. So they went through a private contractor, which is actually something we've seen done in a lot of new cities. Sandy Springs, Dunwoody, Brookhaven, these new cities that have sprung up have outsourced their solid waste collection to private companies. So unfortunately, there will be some people in the Public Works Department who will lose their jobs because they outsource this. They were, we are told, given opportunities to work with Aero, but that's where that stands. It's just very inefficient for a small city like Avendale Estates to provide garbage collection services.
Yeah, certainly. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a new study or that was found within the DeKalb County schools at a DeKalb school board meeting. I apologize for that brief audio intermission there. On May 6th, apparently this report finds that there are disparities within gifted schools within the DeKalb County school system. Of that, the report says 43% of these gifted students are white, 30% are black, 11% are Asian, and 9% are Latino, not exactly in line with the general population of these students. What do you make of this and, an understanding better what the eligibility looks like for these programs?
I know this is going to shock you, but I have some hot takes on this situation. So
this wouldn't be Decatur Dish if you didn't have hot takes. So let's hear it.
Everyone loves the hot takes I dish. So I'm a DeKalb County Schools parent. We talked about that a lot on this show. And you're right, 44% white students in the gifted program, and only about 10%, I wrote this down because I knew I was going to need to remember this. The district as a whole is only about 10% white, but it accounts for 44% of the gifted students. I think it's important for people, especially people who may not have kids in the district, to really understand the appeal of gifted services. It's not just validation that you're a smart person and the children you produced are also smart, although that's certainly nice validation to get it if you can get that. They get better services because they have smaller class ratios. They have access to things that students who are not in gifted programs don't have.
Networking opportunities.
Exactly. So when you want to get into gifted in DeKalb County schools, you have to take a standardized test, and your eligibility is based on whether you're in the 99th percentile on these tests. It's a very high bar, and not everyone is a great test taker. I personally am not. I know quite a few people who aren't. They get stressed out by it. There's long been a contention that the testing itself is culturally biased and improperly excludes certain students, but the district doesn't have the ability to allow students to retest. So it's really frustrating for the district, who I'm sure recognizes that these disparities are not a good thing, and there are students who are perfectly capable of taking a gifted class who are getting denied that opportunity because they just don't test very well.
Right.
Or they don't get a second shot. Maybe they had something going on in their life and they bombed the test. It happens. So I don't know that we're going to see any immediate movement on trying to fix any of this, but I do think that people need to be aware at how pervasive testing is and how much it determines whether your kids go to another grade, whether they get certain services. We all kind of forgot about that because during the pandemic they hit pause on that and they were just saying, we're happy if you show up and are in the classroom. Now, I have seen more meltdowns from my child and other children over these damn tests. And it's something that the kids aren't getting a lot of help with their anxiety anyway, because the world we live in is a pretty rough place sometimes, and social media just kind of amplifies that. So if your performance is attached to how well you manage anxiety and you bomb the test, even though you're smart enough, you're missing out. You're being forced to sit in a larger classroom going over topics you might already know very, very well because you weren't good at taking a test that day.
And let's not forget just having the door open for you to begin with.
Yeah.
To have that opportunity to succeed through your education and go on to higher education for that matter. So these gifted programs and this conversation, that report, very enlightening. Hopefully DeKalb School Board investigates this further and offers some solutions for ways that they can really address what that report showed.
State needs to do something too, Maria.
Yeah. And the state. We won't put it all on the school board. But hey, speaking of educators and schools, it's very important to at any opportunity highlight the teachers that make an impact in their community. And so for this spotlight on the community, I wanted to talk about a Decatur school educator who was named a Georgia Teacher of the Year 2025 finalist, which is a major deal because this title and this recognition is not easy to get, and to be named one of the state's top finalists coming out of Decatur is definitely a point of pride. So let's talk about her.
Let's do that.
There's a picture for you. You are taking a look at the 2025 Georgia Teacher of the Year finalist, City School of Decatur teacher Alicia Reno. Now, Reno is a STEM teacher at Talley Street Upper Elementary School. She is, again, one of those 10 finalists. This final round, this next step for her, and hopefully on her path to recognition as the ultimate Georgia Teacher of the Year for the year 2025, she's going to have to deliver a formal speech and participate in interviews in front of a panel of judges made up of other school educators and professionals. But really a proud moment for the city schools of Decatur. I know you as a parent, Dan, you're very involved with the school systems, so I'm sure you have your own congratulations to give as well for this.
Well, I think one thing that often gets overlooked is Alicia Reno has 22 years of experience, and we're in such a crisis within education right now where older teachers are getting out of the business, they're retiring, they're tired of being having their choices in the classroom litigated, they're tired of being second guessed. So if you have a teacher in your classroom who has that kind of experience and knowledge, you are very, very lucky, because a lot of the teachers that are in classrooms nowadays, this might be their first teaching experience. And there is something to be said for having worked with young people year in and year out and knowing how to motivate them, knowing, for instance, how to get them ready for tests without stressing them all the way out about those tests. And that just comes from years and years of experience. So
and a lot of patience.
A lot of patience. So I want to congratulate Alicia on the nomination, but I really want to tell her thank you. Thank you for sticking with it for so long, because I know it's hard, and I know you could probably get paid more and have an easier time doing something else, but you chose to dedicate your life to this. And to Alicia and to all the teachers who are still there after decades in the classroom, thank you. We appreciate you.
And you should hear the words spoken about Alicia, a true educator and a very talented and impactful educator in the city schools of Decatur. the big topic, and we're going to get heavily into this next week on Georgia's primary election day, but I want to talk about it now because early voting is still going on, and we are going to do everything in our power to encourage you to go vote. So let's talk about this. Dan, you were just at your polling place. How was that experience for you? Tell me how voting's going.
Went to Clarkston, early voting site. It's close to where I live. It was very slow and has been slow. I think there's a lot of people who are really tuned out this year when it comes to politics. And believe me, as somebody who reads this stuff because he has to, I get it. It's stressful. There's a lot going on in this world that makes it easier to disengage. However, the Democratic primary is on May 21st. And a lot of the important races in this county are going to be firmed up on that date. You're going to have county commission races. You're going to have the CEO, which is essentially the mayor of DeKalb County. You're going to have state judges. The sheriff is going to be on there.
U.S.
The solicitor
representatives
is going to be on there. The DA, I think, is going to be on the ballot. There are a lot of decisions being made at the ballot box this year that are going to have a lot more impact on your day-to-day life here in this county than anything going on in D.C. So I really want everyone, and of course, on top of that, there's redistricting. So a lot of people might not know that they have a new legislator this year. I got a new legislator this year because of the maps that were redrawn. So there are a lot of advantages and perks for being a voter. You get to stand in lines, so that's always fun.
You get to stand in a line.
You get summoned for jury duty.
A cute sticker.
Also great. You get a sticker. I mean, the rewards are priceless and seemingly incalculable.
But let's drop some dates.
Drop some dates.
Early voting.
May 21st. Yeah, early voting ends Friday.
Right. May 17th.
DeKalbVotes.com is where you can get those early voting locations. May 21st is going to be primary day. There might be a line on primary day if you don't go early vote. I believe most of the early polling locations are going to close at 7 p.m., so you still got time. You still got time. There was not a line, I'm sad to say, when I went to vote at 6 o'clock in Clarkston yesterday. So get out there. Do your part. Get informed. You know, DecaturishVotes.com is where you can get our voter's guide and learn more about these candidates. But the decisions that you all get to make in this upcoming election are going to shape the future of this county. And if you're a registered voter, you're doing yourself and your neighbors a disservice by not getting educated and not going to participate. I know it's a pain. I know it's a hassle. I know this year of all years, you wish you could just stay out of it, but that's when you need to be in it the most. So
I could not
please
have said that better myself.
go vote.
Go vote,
y'all.
So again, Tuesdays is a tough day for people to make it out to the polls because a lot of us have work, childcare needs, etc. So you do have until Friday, like Dan said, May 17th, to cast your ballot. You just can go to our website at landnewsfirst.com or to Decaturish.com, and you can find all the resources, including your polling location, what you'll need to bring. All that fun stuff is right there and available for you. Now, if there is a runoff election, I don't want to get ahead of myself because we won't know until Tuesday and a couple days after. That is going to be in June. So runoff election day would end up being June 18th, and you can count on us to cover that for you as well. But this is what we're here for. We're here to inform you, get you prepared, especially if you're a DeKalb County resident, keep you up to date on things going on in your community that you'll need to know about. Dan, that website one more time, because the next
DeKalbVotes.com is where
day.
you can get all the stuff related to DeKalb County elections. DeKalbVotes.com. DecaturishVotes.com is where you can get our voter's guide and all that fun stuff. Learn more about the people that you're voting on. DeKalbVotes.com is a pretty important one. The Georgia Secretary of State My Voter page is where you can go and enter your information and get a sample ballot so you'll know who you're voting on this year. And I want to say thank you so much for looking up the runoff date, because you mentioned that, and you might have seen I got the deer in headlights, because that was like, well, one thing I didn't look up. So I appreciate you doing that. In Georgia, there's a runoff if a candidate does not get more than 50% of the vote. There's a whole argument about whether we should do things differently to make elections a little more cost effective, but we'll save that for another day.
And that is what we'll talk about next Tuesday, so make sure you join us for episode 27 of Decatur Dish on May 21st. We will talk all things elections, get you prepared if you are voting on actual primary election day. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you download the Atlanta News First app and go to DecaturIsh.com for the latest DeKalb County headlines. We'll see you later.